And we are here. We are here. We're full of a little bit of dog hair, but no one will notice if I don't tell them, right? You'll never notice I'm full of dog hair if I don't tell you. Hey, guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. It is Friday, the second Friday of January. We made it here. We are almost here. We are actually here live. How you guys doing? Welcome to Friday. We are jacked up on no caffeine, right? We're doing the 10-100. If you haven't done the 10-100, come join us. Do the 10-100. You can check out the link in one of the description boxes of my recent videos this week. Head on over to my Discord group. We're getting a little bit of a January beard. It's snowing outside. It's freezing outside. We're protecting our brittle face. How you guys doing? Welcome to Massive Iron Live. We'll slow down. Right? I appreciate you guys joining me. Before we get started, a few housekeeping things. Massive Iron Live is the longest running live Q&A podcast in the history of lifting. It's been 2 billion years we've been here. I will always be here. I'll be here forever. I'll never stop. I am actually AI generated. You might not know this, but we were well ahead of the curve. I'm here to answer your questions. If you feel free to post up questions. Or no dumb questions, no stupid questions. If you feel a question has been asked a million times before, go right ahead and ask it again, right? Ask it again. I'm always open to answering the newbie questions. We're not afraid of those. If your questions don't go through, try rewording them. Sometimes YouTube doesn't like certain words for whatever reason. It'll put things in the old spamaroo filter. You can always, if you're tuning in late, you can always head over to Instagram, the barman, and post up your questions. We will. I will answer every question on my DM, so don't hesitate to do that. Also, sometimes if the questions are too long, YouTube can throttle them or, make it hard for you to post your questions. So don't hesitate to reword them or shorten them a little bit. So how you guys doing? Have you had a good start to the new year? Are you faltering a little bit? Are you feeling kind of good? Are you feeling off to a fast start? I'm doing good in some senses. In some senses, I need to get up to speed. I think the weather change and the snow has dragged me down a little bit, just from an energy standpoint and a fatigue standpoint. So I'm just hanging in there. Activity, I've been struggling to do activity, but I do have a stepper right here next to my desk and trying to get in steps when I can. So they've been all adding up and I've been doing them, in between client work. So anyway, enough about me. Let's dive into questions. Let's get into things. Before I do so, just a quick commercial. Over at my website, superlivingtoday.com, you can find the coaching tab if you're interested in help. I am keeping the custom workout design at $39. It's a really, really good service. If you want a custom workout outside of coaching, it's my most popular service. You can check out the services tab. I also have a complete assessment that I did for 5 individuals last week. It is only $29, and you get to answer all kinds of questions, and I'll just comb through them and do an assessment. So check out the services tab if you want some inexpensive assistance. All right, what do we got? Big Joe B, a client of mine. Good morning from Canada, America's 51st state. Not yet. Just jokes. What's floating around the worldwide inner tubes. What is reasonable to consider? When is it reasonable to consider changing a progression scheme? Well, you don't want to, number one, you don't want to flip-flop progression schemes too often, right? You don't want to, let me turn off the space. You don't want to change progression schemes too often, right? You don't want to like bounce around. But if you're in a pretty good groove with your progression, let me get this thing off here. Sorry, I forgot this media asset was still up there. If you don't want to bounce around, constantly on progression schemes, you want to have something where you can kind of ease into things and run a little bit. If you've been running a progression scheme for a few months and the progression scheme you want to jump to isn't dramatically different, then by all means do so. If you want to move from a radically different progression scheme, say straight sets with the maximizing the last set to say rest pause, then that's okay too. Just make sure you give it a couple weeks to ease into things. It's also okay to test a new progression scheme if you need a little bit of a fresh change, right? This is what I call evolving training based on needs. There's nothing inherently wrong with doing this, right? You just don't want to constantly jump around and flip-flop. So it's okay if you're in a pretty good groove with a lift, right? Or if you're kind of like in that intermediate zone of training where progression is naturally slow and you just want to increase your motivation by maybe get a little bit of a bump or spike in your motivation or push in your motivation by trying a new progression scheme, there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing you don't want to do is, number one, look for magic progression schemes and constantly be flippy flopping around, because there are no magic progression schemes. There is something called the training effect. Okay. And the training effect is very simple. If you introduce a new variable, even if it's just a simple take or a nuanced adjustment off what you're doing right now, there's a good chance you're going to see a spike in progress. That's called the training effect, introducing a new variable. A lot of times when we introduce a new variable, as a coach, you will see kind of a resurgence or a newfound excitement or an increase in degree of excitement in the trainee, and they will go out and perform a little bit better. It'll kind of bring up the lag a little bit. So it's okay to change things every 3, 4, 5 months to kind of freshen things up a little bit. There's very little downside as long as what you're doing isn't frequently changing progression, if that makes sense. Martin, a client of mine, happy Friday, Familia Massivo. Are we speaking Italiano? Is that Italian? You'll have to educate this dumb American. I think we're in a good place. Any exciting plans this weekend? My wife is doing a photo shoot in the snow, and I have to go out and take pictures. Let's see. I'm going to be spicing up my wife's website a little bit. That's very, very minor. And what else? I don't know. That's really about it. Watching some football games, I need to watch the Tottenham game from the other night, because I had a friend of mine say it was a really amazing game, and I know the final score, and I won't say it because I'm sure Martin has seen it, but I want to watch the game nonetheless. I am like from Black Friday forward. It is really, really a busy time for me, like insanely busy. So many things going on. You got to get prepared for the new year and Black Friday, and so many people doing custom workouts and workout assessments, and clients hopping on board and people inquiring about coaching. I finally got completely caught up in work. I have a couple workout assessments to do this weekend, but last weekend it was nice to sit down and make YouTube videos. YouTube is my secondary thing. Clients are always first, but I do really enjoy putting out YouTube videos, because the challenge for me is when you guys give me ideas, or someone gives me an idea for a YouTube video, or an idea comes into my big fat thick head, I like putting that information out. And and one of the interesting things in the modern dynamic, I've been around YouTube for a very, very long time and around internet fitness for a very, very long time, about 20 years, starting with my own website way back in the day. And you see these new trends, these new cycles every 3, 4, 5, 6 years. It's something new. I mean, we went through the whole starting strength minimal phase where everyone was squatting multiple times a week and not doing a lot of exercise variety and drinking their milk. And I'm not making criticism of that whole era, but you saw that era where everybody was doing that. And then before that, it was the normal bro split bodybuilding era. And now we're in an era of this science based stuff where we're just over and inundated with. I'm not saying science based is bad, you guys get it, but we're over inundated with so many bad opinions and black and white statements. I posted on Instagram yesterday. There was a video clip that I saw with Dr. Mike and what's his name? I forget his name. And they were basically taking a jab at arm days. And like, this is really, really black and white thinking. This isn't really an intelligent addition to the lifting landscape. It's very restrictive and very narrow-minded and almost poking fun at arm days. And there are many, many reasons to have an arm day. There are many reasons, as long as things are structured properly. We're always looking at weekly volume, right? We're always looking at the weekly volume per body part or the overall big picture, what I call in the massive iron world, the shotgun approach, right? What is the big picture? We're not just trying to hit body parts. We're trying to hit the body from head to toe, and body parts are part of that profile, right? But they're not the only thing that matters. We don't just pick movements that target a body part. We have to have a bigger picture, a more robust, well-rounded approach to things. We can't be so narrow-minded that we only look at body parts. So, but in any case, when you're constructing a program, you want to look at overall weekly balance and body part balance, and make sure things are reasonably balanced. We're not trying to turn everyone into a bodybuilder for sure. So we don't have to go crazy, in that end of things. But there are many, many reasons to have a junk day or an arm day. Many, many reasons. You guys are busy, school, life, jobs, house, shoveling the snow, random chaos, your tire went flat. You can't always just get everything in a workout. Some days it's nice. I'm going to tell you right now, it is nice sometimes to get to a Saturday and just do a little bit of arm work, just do a workout that isn't super intense, filled with big compounds like squats and deadlift and bench. Sometimes at the end of the week, when we take a deep breath and we did the deadlifts and the squats and the bench and the overhead press, and we're squeezing all this stuff in between our busy schedule, and then you get to the end of your workouts and you're like, whew, man, I made it. I'm going to do a little bit of arm work. Sometimes it's nice at the end of the week to do your arm work when you're fresh, when you can relax, when you don't have to do a lot of big compounds. So the whole point is there's many, many reasons to do junk days and arm days. I'm just being honest. Like, we were sitting across from each other in a bar. I find it repulsive when these guys just black and white things, especially the science-based influencers. We are smarter than that. We are smarter than that. You remember the day when we used to laugh at bro science, like the post-workout window of opportunity and maybe the possibility that you could actually target the upper shelf of the chest and all these things that the old bodybuilders believed. And there was an era where we made fun of that stuff. Not me, but the community in general. And then we kind of found out maybe there's a little bit of something to this. Maybe we need to shut up a little bit and listen and maybe learn. But the whole point is we went through this anti-bro science thing, like that's bro science, right? The attack on bro science. And now what I find interesting is that when you look at this clip from Dr. Mike, right, and they're kind of poking fun at the concept of arm day, basically saying there's no reason for an arm day, it feels radically bro sciencey. Their opinion is radically bro sciencey rather than sciencey. So anyway, Yvonne, good morning, Yvonne. How you doing? Rico, thanks for tuning in. How is the challenge going? The 10-100 challenge? It's going pretty well. I think day 2 or 3 of the no caffeine was, wow, man. The first day I didn't have an issue. Okay. I did take a sip or two of a caffeine drink just because I was nervous of getting a brutal headache, and that's all I did. The second day, holy cow, I felt like a train hit me. I just felt off and awful, and just rotten. And it was a rough day. And I started day 3 like that. I was pounding Advil. I kind of hid behind the screen and didn't let anybody know how I was doing. But that was the roughest for me. Even though I didn't have a headache, I just felt like my batteries were completely drained, and I just felt really weird internally. Everything else is going reasonably well. I don't have a problem generally eating my eggs and my sausage and my I made chili this week. One of the struggles I had was if I'm not careful, sometimes I'll go up to the fridge and I don't have all of my fruits or veggies. You know, you ever been like this? Like you go up and one of my challenges, I want to eat at least 5 different fruit and veggie choices each day. Doesn't matter what, just to get in a little bit of variety. So I went up on day 1 into the fridge. I'm like, I don't even have enough in the fridge to do this right now. I have frozen peaches and frozen berries. I thought I had onion in the fridge and I was out of onion. I was out of jalapeno peppers. That's the scandal of the century. So I had to really get creative. I had some green chilies in the cupboard. I was out of tomatoes. So what I did this week to combat the likelihood that I would go under on any given day on that goal was I made chili. Chili is super underrated as a superfood. And I say that not meaning it's a superfood, but what isn't there to like about chili? Number one, I could eat it every day, right? I could literally eat it every day. I never get tired of chili. Number two, it's super flexible. I put in bison and venison in mine. You could even put in a little bit of, you can put in chicken, you can put in pork, you could even put in a little bit of light fish, like a mild amount of tilapia or salmon or whatever. You can make it flexible. It has a ton of nutrients, right? So I put in 1 can of black beans in a big crock pot just for a little bit of nutrient variety. And I put in, I put in diced green pepper, diced onion. I have jalapenos, obviously, green chilies. I just have tomatoes, just so many different, nutrient sources, plant-based and animal-based sources in chili. It's just ridiculous, and the flavor is always good. So, very, very underrated as a meal planning choice, and you have complete control over the calories. You can put it over rice if you want. I was using smashed potatoes. I got the little baby potatoes and I smashed them and fried 3 of them up in butter, and I put those on top of the chili just to get in a mild degree of carbs. So anyway, Big Ernie Peterson, what's going on? Is there any benefit to changing rep range on your lift occasionally? The only real benefit is mental break, right? There's not going to be any spike in gains, right? We don't have to frequently change things, but we can keep things fresh, like every 3 to 5 months. If you want to do like 3x5 on bench one phase of training and then 3x10 on the next phase of training, that's fine. Just don't be one of these guys that thinks that's going to somehow change the rate of gains. It's more a learning experience. It's more to keep things fresh. In the long run, it's not really going to change results. I mean, you want to work within rep ranges you enjoy, but as long as your rep ranges are reasonable, there's no harm in changing it every phase of training. I do this sort of stuff with my clients. Ernie, when we're building workouts and they want a new phase of training, sometimes we'll do rest pause. Sometimes I'll create a new protocol like 2+ drop, all kinds of fun things. Do you think that doing all lifts with an axle bar is good? No, I do not. There's nothing wrong with an axle bar, but it's a thick bar and it's going to start working your forearms. It can give the impression that things are harder, but it can make things harder in the wrong way, if that makes sense. Like if you want to get a fat grip bar and you try to deadlift, it's going to make the deadlift harder. But is it making the deadlift harder in the right type of way? I mean, we want to work our upper back. We want to work our yoke. We want to work our traps. That's the prime reason for doing a deadlift in a bodybuilding sense. And putting a thicker bar in the mix can make it feel harder, but it's not harder in the right way. There's nothing wrong with it if you're training for strongman and you have an axle bar event, but is it really making it harder in the right way? If you add it on bench press, is it making it harder on the chest, or is it making it feel harder in a vaporous sense because it's more challenging? Does that make sense? You can add in variables, and there are variables that can make it harder in a good way, and there are variables that can make it harder in a way that isn't really improving muscle and strength building for the average individual. Some people might misinterpret this, but I hope you slow down and take a strong listen to what I'm saying. Like, if you start your barbell on fire and the barbell starts to heat up and it makes it harder, and I know this is a wacky way of looking at things, it'll be harder, right? But is it improving your chest results? No, it's not. And that's kind of the same thing with some of these lifts. Like if you want to take a curl and use a really thick bar or use the fat grips, and some people say, it made it harder. It did make it harder, but is it harder on your biceps? Or is it harder to grip or harder on your forearms? It's harder on my forearms. And I like that. I like training my forearms. That's fine. But we're there to train our biceps, right? You can train your forearms a little bit. If you can progress in that lane, that's fine. But some people will get these fat grips and they'll all of a sudden, want to use them on everything because it feels harder. That's wrong. You can use a little bit of variation. If you want to use like fat grips or a thicker bar for fun, it's okay to train for fun, right? But if you're going to do it on like the deadlift, I would only do it maybe every other week. And understand it'll be challenging the body in a different way, that it's probably going to be a little bit harder on your grip and a little bit harder on your lower back because you are not able to just stay in a really good groove when it comes to standing up on the deadlift. There's other variables involved. So there's no way in hell I'd ever use it on RDL. No way. Because in RDL, you're trying to drive your hips back and glutes back to load the hamstrings, to call into play that stretch reflex. Adding a weird variable in there isn't making the RDL better. It's just making it more inherently dangerous. So we don't want to do that. Squats, no way in hell. It adds no quality value. All it's going to do is push the bar back and place a little bit of extra stress on your shoulders. In no way is it going to provide a real decent positive value? Some people are going to try to fight me on that. And look, at the end of the day, this is just lifting. And I want you guys to have fun. I have played around with many things over the years. But for your base building meat and potatoes, stick with the basics. Don't all of a sudden just jump and do radical changes and use a piece of equipment on everything, right? Be careful. If you want to have 10% of your lifts that are, if you want to use the thick bar bench after you do regular benching or every other week, that's fine, but I wouldn't go wholesale 100% in. What do you think about the solid steel 10 millimeter axle bar? Not for all lifts, no way. I think we just covered that. Definitely not for all lifts. Well, we have to stick with convention and maybe have a little bit of fun. It's okay to have fun, but certainly not for all lifts. Greetings. What do you think? To do an exercise with 2 different rep ranges on the same day, for example, 2x5 and 2x10. I wouldn't really do it on the same day, to be honest with you. I mean, if you are at home and you have limited equipment, and that is one of the ways you can increase the enjoyment of limited equipment, then yeah, it's okay. I mean, there's no harm in doing 2x5 and 2x10 on squats. I do a 3s protocol where you do like a back down, you drop weight 10%, your rep ranges go up. But in general, it might be a good idea. It depends on the bigger picture of the program. So I don't want to dissuade anybody from doing anything. Like 4 sets is reasonable. Let's be real. So if you want to do that, that's fine. If you want to do 2x5 and drop weight 10% and do 2x10 or whatever it is, that's reasonable. Also know the other option is to rotate rep ranges every other workout. The key thing is you enjoy your workout, you're getting in a reasonable amount of exercise variety, etc. So I guess I kind of backtracked a little bit. Sometimes I'm processing this a little bit as I'm thinking through things, the positives and the negatives. But yeah, it's perfectly okay as long as you enjoy it. Just know you could also alternate every other week if you wanted to. I tried an axle bar and it feels great on bench. I would not ever do it on RDL. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't. The point of I'm just sharing my opinion, and like we were sitting across from each other in a bar, I would never do it on RDL. You don't want to have anything distract you from the focus of an RDL. You don't want any slippage or any grip issues. You want the feel of loading the hamstrings to be your A1 priority, and you don't want to introduce any variables that can throw off grip or feel and place any additional stress on the lower back. The central nervous system, when it comes to deadlifting and things like the RDL, if it senses any grip issues, there's a good chance it's going to try to shut down the set or limit the amount of weight you are using. This is not speculation. There's actually some reasonable science out there that shows there's a correlation or a relationship between grip and the central nervous system and how the amount of weight you can use on back exercises. So basically, if your grip is solid or you're using straps and your grip is locked in, the central nervous system is going to be in a better position to trust you. Whereas if things are sketchy on the grip, you're basically telling the central nervous system that you're putting the spine at risk. I know this sounds a little bit overcomplicated and a lot like hoo-ha, but the body is going to protect the spine. So the stronger the grip is, the more weight you can use. Or the more weight the body or the central nervous system will allow you to use. Anyway, if you're getting into sketchy grip scenarios, you're just going to increase risk injury. And it doesn't add any benefit at all to RDLs. It only adds negatives, in my opinion. So, 1 second. All right, so thicker bars are better for bodybuilding. That's not true, and I mean that respectfully. That's not true at all. If it was true, we would have all transitioned over. That's a generalization, and I say that respectfully. Generally, they're not better. I would argue they're actually, in many cases, using a thicker bar makes the lifts harder in the wrong way. Extra bars definitely do challenge the forearms in all lifts, and that's one of the reasons why they can take away from certain lifts. You're working with all right, let's move past the axle bar stuff. I respect it, but let's move on. In your program, Power Muscle Burn, it's possible that the muscle sets are performed with exercises. If you are limited in equipment, yeah, you can do muscle sets using like upright rows and lateral raises. Absolutely. It really depends on the big picture of the program. So, as long as the big picture, how you're hitting an area makes sense, you're perfectly fine. Let's see. Is it possible that the muscle sets are performed with another progression? Yeah, you can perform really any program I put together is just a framework. So we don't stick to a program for the sake of sticking to a program, right? My programs are ideas. I'm trying to give you guys ideas or frameworks to to work with, and you can change anything that you want, as long as it's reasonable, if that makes sense. Justin, good morning, Big Hairy Ugly Dude and Team Massive. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. If the cut starts next week and I hit my progression on bench this week, do I still increase the weight? Yeah, absolutely. You always default to the weight increase. And unless you're certain it's going to drive you down to 4 or 5 reps, on a lift, then you might hold steady. It really depends on the nuance of the program. If I hit a progression indicator, I'm going to move up in weight. The only way I'm not going to move up in weight is if I'm certain I'm going to jump down to 3 or 4 or 5 reps, if that makes sense. Shelly Turner, how's it going? Shelly, a client of mine, thanks for tuning in. Let me get a drink of my electrolytes and ice. Good morning. First week of training for 2025 in the bank, and it's the first week of running my program. And some lifts I need to add weight and some need to do more reps. That's fair. Funny story. 2 days ago, I went to a local swimming pool that was nearby and tried to swim to the other side. And as I returned to where I was, I nearly drowned. That doesn't sound like a funny story to me. They say when someone lifts a lot of iron, they sink like iron. Well, that's exactly what happened to me. I'll tell you, I'm not a good swimmer, right? I'm not a good swimmer. Not at all. And people will say, just do this and float. And I can't float to save my life. I just can't. I don't know if I'm dumb or whatever. I'm no expert, right? And maybe I'm missing something. But yeah, I'm not good at that. I'm going to skip ahead and then we'll have the final say. Alan says, record a video where he says axle bars are best for all lifts to use. No, they're not. And I'll agree to disagree. They're certainly not best for. I don't know the context of the video, so I don't want to. I need to know the context. I'm not just going to blanketly disagree with someone without knowing the context, because that gets us into trouble. But for bodybuilding, they're absolutely not. For strength training, there might be certain applications where it's good. Alan, might be talking about strength training, or there might be nuance here, but for bodybuilding, they're absolutely not. I don't care who gets on and says what. Axle bars are not the best for bodybuilding. I'm not saying that's what Alan said. I don't know what he said, but I'm just telling you they are not the best for bodybuilding. You guys can make up your own decision, but again, if you're going to toss an axle bar and RDLs, it's going to make it different. It's going to make it harder in a bad way, right? In a potentially more dangerous way. It's not going to enhance the stress on the hamstrings. All right, let's go back in time to where we were. Big Justin Jones. Saw my doctor this morning. Blood pressure is always normal. First numbers in the low 100s. This morning it was 156. Is it because, no, it's unlikely that you're in a very mild lean bulk eating healthy foods. No. That sounds like it's something aberrant. I don't get into medical stuff. But in general, it's not going to be the fact that you're doing a very mild bulk. It could be stress. It could be alcohol. It could be your potassium levels are low. It could be many, many reasons, but if your weight is reasonable and your blood pressure is up, it could be a temporary thing. I used to, I'm not going to play medical doctor. I was in occupational health for 5 years, and I did a lot of pre-employment screenings where I'd have to take blood pressure. And that sounds to me like it's very, very one-off, like something else could have been going on that day. That's just my opinion, man to man. I'm not going to play doctor, and I'm not going to speculate, but there's a very low likelihood if you're eating healthy food and your weight is normal that it's causing your blood pressure to spike up. What causes your blood pressure to spike up? Eating 5% more food, healthy food, generally isn't going to cause your blood pressure to go up. Blood pressure is increased by eating a lot of crap foods, a lot of alcohol, where your body has to like flood the bloodstream, to water down the insulin or water down the alcohol or react to the poisons that we're putting in, or the buildup of plaque from really a poor diet. So I would get it checked again, just man to man, not trying to play doctor. But if you're eating healthy and your weight's normal, that's generally not, I'm being polite, but it's highly unlikely that's going to be an issue. I'm not asking you why it's high. Yeah, I don't know, but I would definitely monitor it. Martin, is there merit in doing the same movement twice in a training week with a different rep range? There can be. It depends on the bigger picture. It can be, but at the end of the day, the thing I want to default to is like if you're trying to do a bench specialization program, then by all means, do variations of the bench press. The thing that worries me the most when we overwork things is that we overwork movement patterns, right? So I don't want you to overwork movement patterns, and there's a low likelihood that anybody is. I'm always going to land on the side of a little bit of exercise variety, so the bigger picture of a program is more important. But if you're doing preacher curls on back and bicep day and you want to do it on an arm day, I would do a variation. Me personally, I'm always going to do a different variation. If I want to attack a muscle group or an area, I want to attack it with sensible tools that have a little bit of variation, because everything hits the body a little bit differently. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. We're going to skip forward to the axle bar conversation. Now the fashion for axle bars is back, and everyone says they're not. Well, number one, not everyone is saying that, and I'm not being argumentative. A couple people say that, right? For strength training, Strongman, maybe there is a good application. For bodybuilding, they're definitely not the best. They're best for maybe stressing things in ways you don't want them to stress. And we covered this earlier. There's something attractive about axle bars. Yeah, it's the same thing with chains. But, at the end of the day, we need to be sensible and make sure on bicep curls that we're working our biceps and not our forearms more. And we put them on our bar for back for squats. Well, they're going to make things more difficult, but are they really making things more difficult in a good way? As an exercise variation in the conjugate, in a conjugate type of scenario, maybe. But yeah, no, I'm not. You guys can go off and do whatever you want with axle bars, but I'm just going to tell you my honest opinion, and giving you guys the best advice I can is that they're absolutely not the best. Sledding is my cardio today. No problems with that. Zero option. I cannot join the 10100 Discord. Yeah, I'll post the link right now. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. And you can't really post links in here very well, but hold on. That's going to be it. If you need the linky poo, if you want one, just hit me up on Instagram, etc. Eric, when will you show us your axle bar? I don't do axle bars. I've done one axle bar deadlift. That's it. All right, where are we? Let's go back. Andreas, good morning, big hairy ugly dude. Be honest with us. What's your favorite one of your dogs? It is Chichi Morongo, the black and white dog. That's my dog. He follows me around everywhere, and he literally has to sit beside me. I'll show you my dogs for those of you that don't know my dogs, but Chichi Morongo is my dog. I love all the dogs, but Chichi is the one that follows me around. He is attached to me. He needs to be around me, and he needs to be sitting with me on the couch, that sort of thing. So I'll show you the dogaroos. So we have a new dog, a puppy, and it's not seen here because this is an older picture. But the one on the left is Bubba. Bubba's the oldest. He's about 4. He was the first sausage dog. And Chi-Chi, the one on the far right is Snoop. He's really strong. Snoop is like strong and muscular. He looks like he lifts. He's very, very powerful. And he's like the guardian of the galaxy. The third dog we got is Chichi Morongo. He is the second one from the left. He's the one that follows me around. He's my buddy. He's my best friend. I've never been so attached to a dog. He just wants to be by me. He feels safe around me. You can just tell. An interesting story. Bluey's the second one from the right, and he's a good dog, very beautiful dog. Chi-Chi, the white and black and brown dog, we got him from a different breeder. And when we got him, we could tell they were beating the living crap out of him or torturing him or doing something because he was not right. He was not right at all. They had abused him in some way, and you can tell he's just perpetually shaking and afraid of everything. And you get near him, he would scream. He was just jumpy. Whatever they did, I don't know. But I will tell you, he attached to me immediately. And just a wonderful dog. So that's my dog right there. All right. The cheeky monkey keeps throwing stones at the naughty crocodile from the tree. All right. Thank you. That opinion on caffeine. Nothing inherently wrong with caffeine. People ask me why I decided to do caffeine as part of the 10-100 challenge. The main reason is like, I don't like to be under the control of anything, right? It's an uneasy feeling for me when something controls me. That's the best way I can put it. So I think if you feel um, that something is controlling you, it's good occasionally to take a detox from it. And I hate that we use the word detox. I don't mean that literally, but take a break from it for a month. Um, Establish that self control. Do you want to be under control of anything? Sugar, alcohol, um, weed, for those of you. I mean, I want to be, I think even Joe Rogan takes a month off of weed once a year. I don't know. I'm just, I thought that's what he said, but I don't want to be under, I want to know I'm in control. And when things start to get a little bit abusive, um, it's when I want to gain control. All right. Yeah, I eat hot jalapenos with just about every dinner, that's for sure. Flick Burger Lutsy Boy. Hey Steve, happy new year. Been utilizing your bulldozer rest pause protocols for leg curls. Excellent. That's a good extensions and presses. Is this enough volume for leg growth? Absolutely. The misnomer, or kind of the misconception with rest pause or the bulldozer protocol, is that it doesn't give you the same amount of volume as like 3 sets. So the bulldozer protocol, you can generally do 5 sets. Sometimes you can do 4, but it's going to give you the same volume, the same rep volume. In fact, I'm going to pull something up and we're going to kind of comb through this. And I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to pull up a Google Doc and we'll work through this together. And I want to show you guys, instead of just talking about it, I want to show you guys what exactly the volume would look like. So let me share screen. We'll get the old Google Doc. And here we go. So a straight set, we'll just say you're doing bench 3x8, okay? And maybe you're doing the bench threes protocol. We'll look at 2 different variations of the threes. Bench 3x8, maybe you're pushing the last set for max reps, and you get 9, so you get 8, 8, and 9. Let me make this bigger for those of you that are blind, and we'll use my, where's my favorite font go? We'll just use Roboto, Rohudu. All right, we have, 25 total reps, okay? And maybe on the threes protocol, you do like 6 and you have 9 and you have 11. Basically on the bench on the threes protocol, you're dropping weight about 10%. So we'll look at 2 different ways of doing the bench. Straight sets or the threes protocol, which maximizes every. And here you hit 25 total reps. And here you hit about 26. So people often ask me, is there a big difference? No, there's not really a big difference. You can see they produce about the same number of reps. Let's say the last third are really the intense. I'm not going to use quality because we'll just consider all reps quality. But we'll just say the last third are the juicy reps, right? So let's say you're getting 8 juicy reps, 8 really, really intense. And here it might be 9, okay? 9, the tough reps. Like the first 3 reps, yeah, they're getting in work, but they're not as hard as the last 3 reps. So let's say you go to the bulldozer rest pause protocol on bench. Basically, you rest 20 to 30 seconds. On bench, I'd rest probably about 30 seconds in between sets. You're going to do 5 mini sets. And your goal is to keep that top set about at 12. When you get to about 13 or 14, you can add weight. So you're going to have a drop off. You can do 12, and then you're going to rest. You'll probably hit something like 7, and probably something like 4, and then something like 3, and then sometimes you have a little bit of bounce back. So you're resting about 30 seconds, and you're doing 5 mini sets, but you're only doing one of these. So it feels like you're only doing one set, right? Overall, we have, what do we have? 19, 23, 20. We have 30 total reps. So we got in 30 total reps on the bulldozer. So you can see we actually got in more reps than we did above. And let's look at the juicy reps. So let's say in the 12 rep set, 3 of them are juicy. Here, because it's rest pause, we're going to say that 3 of those were juicy. Here, we're going to say 3 of those were juicy because they're really getting tough because of the limited rest. We'll go with 2 here and 3 juicy reps there. So this is just a guesstimation. But you look at like the really intense reps, and all of a sudden you have 14 juicy reps, right? So bulldozer can give the impression that you aren't doing as much work. You're actually, in many cases, doing more work, and you have a higher overall average rep quality. One thing you're going to find with rest pause is that you tend to get more sore because the overall rep intensity is a little bit greater. So I hope that helps some. You and me both. Martin. Day 5, caffeine free and feeling no adverse effects. That's wonderful. That's good. It always goes pretty good for me until I hit that one day where I have a little bit of sleep deprivation, and mentally I just want caffeine rather than I need it physically. Austin, thanks for the follow last night. My pleasure. I don't really monitor Instagram very, very closely, but when I do see a good comment and somebody that I know is lifting, I try to follow them. Thanks for the follow. Hoping to get that 831 verified as a strongman event soon. It's difficult to find events for my small size. I'd like to know more, so just keep us updated. When you say the 831, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. When are you coming to the UK? I really, really want to come this year. I do. Last year, moving into the house, everything just went crazy. I'm releasing a workout tracker app this year, and hopefully once that is done and we got that under the belt, I'll have a little bit more room to breathe. Big Carl, how's it going, Carl? Thanks for tuning in. Giants-based lifters flippy flop every month now. Well, you just never know what you're going to get, right? Do you only do one main set when doing rest pause? Like the example we just looked at, one set is going to be about the equivalent roughly of 3 other sets. So it's a good starting point. You could reduce things down to 4 mini sets on the bulldozer or even 3, and you could do 2 sets if you wanted to. As long as you're recovering fine and it feels good for you, that's okay. Do you do form checks with live streaming? Yeah, I would do a form check with live streaming. Let's see. Snatch pulls. Let me just check. Let me see if I can find it. I will do a form check, and I got it. Let me just mute things because I think I can download the video so I don't have to pull up the actual Discord. And I think I can upload it here. Present video file. Let me see if I can upload it. We don't want to tick off the gods. We're going to look at I don't know anything about this video. So this is from Ice Cold Tristan. We're just going to do it in real time. If you're on Discord, you can upload a file and I can download it and pull it in here. So let's just see. We have a barbell, 245s, a 25. So you have like somewhere around 295, 285 on there. And let's cut to that. Let's see. Strap up. Wide grip. Okay, I see a wide grip. You can tell it's a wider grip compared to a conventional deadlift grip. Don't know where we're going. Okay. Watch the feet set up relative to the bar. Where they are relative to the bar may or may not matter depending on the lift. All right, what do we got here? The bar is about over the center of the foot. On a deadlift, you want, when you look straight down when you're standing up, you want to see about 40% of your foot in front of the bar. Okay, I don't know where we're going to get here, so I don't know the lift. Center of the shoulder is a little bit in front of the center of the bar. The main thing I see is that you're getting a little bit of hip bounce, but I want to see if this is a negative thing. You see your hips on each rep, and you can watch it closely. They dip, okay, and then they bounce before the bar leaves the ground. Oh, okay, wait. You can see the hips coming up. It's really hard to stop it here. See this position? This is my concern, okay? So your hips bounce down, and now here you are with the bar 6 inches off the ground or whatever, and your hips are almost equal to your shoulders. This is a really, really poor position leverage wise to accelerate and generate speed, and it's going to place a lot of stress on your lower back. So you need a little bit more hip discipline. Does this make sense? You need to keep those hips down a little bit in a better leverage position. Once you sink your hips before you pull, just take a moment, compartmentalize it a little bit, brace your core, and think about standing up to initiate, driving your shoulders straight up to the ceiling. It's not that your hips can't come up a little bit, but when you get in this type of position where your hips are almost equal to your shoulders, you've completely lost your quality leverage, and you've transitioned the stress over to your lower back. So I hope that makes some help. I hope that makes some sense and helps a little bit. All right, where are we at? Where are we at? Rob, doing a push-pull legs routine, one day off, one day on, one day off. Okay. Each session gets hit every 6 days. Okay, so every other day. Okay. Just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Is this considered twice a week for volume's sake? If every session gets hit every 6th day, no, it's just more like a bro split. It's if you're doing one session every 6 days, pull. I mean, we don't want to overanalyze things and whatever, but this is more like a bro split frequency because you're doing legs once a week, you're doing your pull work, your back work once a week, and you're doing your push work. Your push work like you're benching overheads once a week. How long to cut until after a bulk? This is probably going to sound like a non-answer, but until you're done. I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious, nor am I trying to be a smarty pants, but you cut until you're done with your cut. How much do you have to lose? Where do you want to be in a position for your bulk? I don't know how much weight you want to lose. I don't know what body weight you're trying to be at. I don't know what you're trying to bulk. So there's really no way I can give an intelligent answer to that. You cut until you're done cutting. 2 days into my GoMad bulk, and so far my bowels still exist. That's good. Always good that you're not schneiding out your small intestines and large intestines. Mark Ripple Toes is still in 2000. Just do your 5x5s, only big 3 lifts. Everything else is a waste of time. You want to train like that? Go right ahead. It's neither efficient or effective for building a strength base. any program will give you some good forward progress, but we need a little bit better balance when we are building a strength base. And these are very technical lifts. They take time to master. If you put most of your eggs in the basket of posterior chain lifts, then you're not going to get a lot of benefit initially. It can take years to master these lifts. And I say that as an experienced coach that teaches form for a living. On the internet, everybody can just easily grasp and get up to speed on the squats and deadlifts 100%. But in reality, it takes time. If you do a minimal program, it's going to take you time to get up to speed on your squats and deadlifts. And running these types of programs usually just result in a very inefficient bulk and muscle building period, not a good quality base building period, especially if you are a little bit weak on your form. I thought lifting was supposed to be fun, not just optimal. Arm days are fun. Yeah, as long as that weekly volume makes sense, absolutely. Curious if junk days can be done at home also, as long as, yeah, you can do junk days wherever you want. I have clients that sometimes do junk days at home. I have a Planet Fitness membership. You can laugh if you want, but some days I like to go to Planet Fitness one day a week just to do exercises I can't do at home just for fun. Why all starting strength coaches don't look like they lift? I've never actually looked at a starting strength coach, so I have no comment. If you do bicep work after all the heavy compounds on a pull day, won't this hurt arm growth? No, it's the exact opposite. 60, maybe 65, 70% of your arm growth is going to occur from the big compounds. If you don't get your big rows and your presses up, your overhead presses and your dumbbell overheads and your bench and dumbbell bench and your rows and all the big upper body lifts, and you only do isolation work, you won't have a big upper body and you won't have really big arms. No matter what program you do, there's going to be a degradation of intensity and a degradation of energy as you move along. But no, you never do arms before the big compound movements. That's like trying to walk a horse up the hill backwards, just so the ass gets there first. It doesn't work that way. No, not at all. It's actually the opposite. Guess I'm lucky. I know withdrawals from caffeine. Yeah, I have cut caffeine a couple times in the past, but it's been almost 25 years. So with how much I do, I think I was getting a little bit to the point where I was questioning my own sanity. To go from 20% body fat to 10 to 12, how long should you cut until you're done? I mean, I'm not being a smart ass, Ian, but you cut until you're done. I mean, if you weigh 200 pounds and you're at 20%, then let me bring the document up again. And hold on a minute. I'm just going to bring a of just talk about things. I'm not being dismissive, and I'm not trying to be a smartass, but that's the honest answer to the question. If you are, say, 200 pounds, 2,000 pounds, right, and 20% body fat, okay, you have about 160 pounds of lean body mass and 40 pounds of fat. And if you want to get down to, say, 12%, okay, and we'll just zipperoo along here, and you still hold on to 159. So if you are at, let's say you get down to 185, 160 divided by 185, you lose 15 pounds of fat, is going to be about 13.5%. Okay. If you get down to like 182, 160 divided by 182 is going to be almost at 12%. So let's just say 181 is your target. Whoops. 181. Let's see. 160 divided by 181 will be specifically 11 point roughly 6% body fat. Okay. So we went a little bit over. You have lost 19 pounds. So you cut until you lose 19 pounds. Generally, I would like to see you get that done in 2 to 2.5 months. 2.5 months is probably pretty reasonable. If you start going to the point where you're only losing 4 or 5 pounds a month, you probably need to step it up a little bit, unless you are feeling in a really good place with a prolonged cut. What do you think in your program? Use the block burn bulldozer. I have the power muscle block, which you do block sets. I have the burn, which you do burn sets, and I have the variation where you do bulldozer. I wouldn't do them all in the same program. I'd probably rotate between 2 every other week. You really don't want to because you get to the point where you're doing techniques and you lose a grasp of progressive overload. How you want to have something to beat. So having 2, if you go 2 weeks out from a specific protocol, then you can easily bounce back to that and still be focused on your progression indicator. Alex recently talked about how 20 rep squats are a rite of passage for every serious lifter, and that you can't say you push squats to the limit if you've never done them. I think he wasn't meaning as a rule, but I think in a general sense, if you're a serious lifter, at some point, I mean, he's not saying you are not a serious lifter if you never do 20 rep squats. I think he means it more in a general sense. It's part of the whole, our world, right? If you're serious and you're serious about squats, at some point we probably want to try them. It's like a buffet, right? You can't keep going to the buffet and never trying, the one thing that looks amazing. You probably should try them just for fun and personal experience, but I don't think he's talking in any serious way. Just want to say happy belated holidays. Thank you. And same to you. Yesterday, I got back in the gym after spending 2 months on doing occasional body weight. Glad you're back at it. Just take slow and let that connective tissue get up to speed. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Glad it's the end of the week, you and me both. I'll message you as soon as I get done. Thank you for your patience. Is it wrong for someone to say video games are bad for you? It's very silly. I mean, look, life is short and it's your journey. And as long as you're not abusing something and neglecting your responsibilities, use your free time any way you want. As long as you're not harming yourself and it's preventing you from reaching other goals, you're staying up late relentlessly and it's harming you physically or preventing you from finishing school or what else, anything else like that, then I would probably rethink things a little bit. You don't want anything in life to control you. You want to be in control of everything, but do whatever you want. I mean, some people make fun of adults that play video games. I think this is just juvenile. In my day, adult men, it's great. In my dad's day, adult men went to the bar and drunk themselves silly and came home and punched holes in the wall, right? That's what my dad did. That's the honest truth. So if you want to play a little bit of video games, in this day and age, I'm just saying, I do not personally give a shit what any adult does, as long as they're not engaging in violence or hatred. Ian, I see many jacked influencers say things like incline bench press and the laterals are enough for front and side delts. Well, any pressing is going to contribute to front delts, okay? Front lateral raises have a better progression opportunity than side laterals. You are going to be doing bench pressing. So yeah, that's plenty for your front delts. I have never met a experienced lifter that didn't have big, juicy front delts. You never have to really do direct front delt work. There are not many. There are some jacked influencers, but no, you do need overhead presses. Anyone that leaves this movement pattern out is just silly. There's no reason not to do a movement pattern. You're just going to reduce the likelihood that you're going to get quality side delt development. Overhead presses are excellent for side delts. There's no reason not to do them. And the question is, why as a community do we keep trying to look for an easier way out of, why do we keep trying to look for a way to, I don't know you, Ian, and I'm not coming after you, but I'm getting rather sick and tired of the community trying to look for a reason not to do overhead pressing. Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you balance your shoulder girdle work and do overhead press? Why are we trying to seek, let's try to reduce things to 2 exercises because, most people, let's be honest, most of these people don't want to do side delt work because it's not easy, right? They'd rather do fluffy flu-flu work. You're not going to get big shoulder development out of lateral raises alone. There's no progression opportunity. If you believe that's a lie, you go on, do you do you, right? Progressive overload is a requirement. There's no reason not to do side delt or overhead presses. Absolutely no reason at all. If you don't believe that, this is probably not the channel for you, right? If you believe you can build massive shoulders with side laterals or side delts with side lateral raises alone, this is probably not the channel for you. Incline bench is not going to build much in the way of side delts. And if we're using that logic, moving from flat to incline, why wouldn't you move to a conventional seated overhead? Why wouldn't we? Why? That's the question. Why wouldn't you use a balanced approach to your training and to your side delt work? Why wouldn't you? That's the question. Quite honestly, this is one of the questions in the industry that I'm getting tired of. It's not many jacked influencers. It's the 2 or 3 that you follow. And Ian, I'm saying that respectfully. I am. You need to stop following these guys. You do. You need to stop following these guys. These guys are wrong, okay? You need to have every movement pattern, every major movement pattern balanced for good balance, for good overall shoulder girdle development and good overall shoulder girdle health. The best way for you to develop side delts is from overhead pressing. Yes, they do work the front delts. Bench press works the front delts more. That's not a reason not to do them, okay? Anyone that tosses that out there as a reason not to do them is quite frankly an idiot, and you can quote me. They are an idiot. They are just undereducated and a buffoon. It's not a reason not to do things. That logic is faulty, and I hope that makes sense. Whenever you do I get amazing side delt pumps on overhead presses. I'm not going to try to sell you guys on this stuff. Somebody just put Matt Winning said yesterday in his live stream to not do overheads. Then stop following Matt Winning. I'm not going to get in these arguments. Okay, you do Matt Winning's way, where you don't do any overhead presses and you don't have shoulder girdle development because of the rotator cuff. I'm done with that. That's just stupid. It's just dumb. I don't know anybody. None of my clients have shoulder over. Most people develop rotator cuff issues from being weak and from doing stupid crap or doing stupid stuff at work. I'm not going to get into that. You guys can either follow Matt Winning's way or you can follow mine. You can either think I'm an idiot or you can and avoid all overhead pressing and be really fragile. I hate the fragile culture. I hate fragile culture. I hate the culture that starts reducing exercises because, we can't do leg extensions because one person got a knee injury, or athlete X, we can't do dumbbell rows because it might hurt your mangina or whatever the heck he said. Oh no, he said one person got a hernia. I've never heard of that in my whole life, right? I don't buy into fragile culture. The massive iron way is we balance our training, we balance all movement patterns, and you can absolutely get amazing side delt work from doing overhead presses. I have super strong shoulders. I've never had a rotator cuff injury. None of my clients have rotator cuff injuries from doing overhead presses. Most of their shoulder issues come from pre-existing conditions or unbalanced training or reckless form. Look, you know what? I nearly had a 2,000-pound total in powerlifting as well. So if that's the game you want to play, go fuck off. I don't need you on this channel. If you don't want my advice, just leave. I don't care. You want to compare balls, that's fine. His balls are this big and your balls are this big. I had about a 1,900-pound total, right? And I didn't abuse drugs. So compare all the balls you want, right? I don't know Matt Wenning's protocol, and I'm not saying he abused drugs, but if we want to compare balls, let's compare balls, shall we? This is a juvenile. I don't play juvenile games. And if you want to play juvenile games, go fuck yourself. Go follow some other channel. I have no time for this bullshit. You are sucking the schwanzola of someone right now, and you don't have any interest in having an intelligent discussion or listening to balanced. You don't want to process information. You want to sit in your little bitch corner and do what you want to do and have some influencer tell you, good job, you're doing the right thing. Don't do overhead presses. You're safe. That's all you want. And that's the only reason you're posting this stuff. I have nothing against Matt Wenning. This is about you, okay? This is about you. All you want to do is have your opinion and your weak ass, shit ass training backed by somebody on the internet, right? That's all you want to do. If you are one of these lifters that you just want to search the internet for someone to say, good boy, Johnny, you don't have to do overhead presses. I'm going to align with the influencer that tells me to be a weak piece of shit. All right. I don't do dogmatic bullshit, right? If you're here to learn, I'm going to try to give you the positives and negatives, right? I'm going to try to give you the information. And we can intelligently have a discussion, right? I'm going to present to you that for overall shoulder girdle health, that it's probably a good idea to do overhead presses to balance things out. When I was running, I took basically 2 or 3 years where I didn't do overhead presses, and I just did bench presses not because of some master plan, right? Not because of some master plan, but because I was running so much, my shoulder workout generally got set aside. So what I reached a point like 3 years ago, I couldn't even press overhead. I thought I was done pressing overhead. What had happened was I had developed such a weird imbalance from only doing bench presses that my shoulders were so painful, I could literally not lift my hands over my head. So this is just one example of the perils of unbalanced training. But that aside, right? And all the silly arguments aside, not to do over, you can do whatever you want. This isn't life or death. But one thing I will say, and you might want to turn down the video if you don't want to hear naughty words. If you're going to be a bitch, a dogmatic bitch, who doesn't want to learn, who just wants to sit in a corner and slap the ass of his favorite influencer, then go fuck off. That's not intelligent. That's not reasonable. We don't need more dogmatic bullshit in this industry, right? Lifting is not super serious. We can have intelligent discussions, but if you want to swing from the balls of some influencer, he said this, so this is what people do. They don't want to do something, right? So then they start cherry picking something their favorite influencer said as a reason not to do something hard. Look, man up. If you don't want to fucking do overhead presses, just say, I don't want to do overhead presses because I don't like them. They're too hard. Fine, fair, respect. I have respect for you. But when we start cherry picking influencers, right, to give us a reason not to do something hard, if you said, hey man, I just don't like doing overhead presses, you know what? I have clients that say that. Then we find another way. That's fair. We'll find a way to balance the shoulder girdle training. We'll find a way to strengthen the shoulders and build good shoulders. I have nothing but respect for truth. But when you're going to be a bitch and cherry pick your influencer, right? And use that as a reason. Matt Wenning said, and he has a 2,000 pound total. Well, you know what? Do some fucking research. I'm not so weak either. And I didn't fucking jack up my ass with fucking endless amounts of steroids. So if you're going to come to the table with that as a discussion, that weak ass, paper thin discussion, go fuck yourself. That's somebody's arms are a quarter bigger than yours. So what? You're going to use that as a reason not to overhead press? I don't give a shit. My head's smaller than Matt Wenning. So what does that matter? Like, I have a smaller head. Maybe I have a smaller brain capacity. And look at all the good information I put out. Maybe that's a bonus. I'm so over this discussion. I really, really am. I'm not going to run around having a fake PhD like Matt Wenning either. Check out a video recently by Atlas Power Shrug. I don't get into influencer crap. I don't care. But if you want to pull somebody up like Matt Wenning, who claims he's a PhD and could barely get C's in his area of focus and doesn't have a real doctor, but pretends to be a doctor, bring it on. I'll go toe to toe. I do not care what you do. This is not life or death. And I'm sorry for the long rant, but I'll tell you what. If you're going to start, using another influence as a reason to be a bitch and not do an exercise, I'd rather have you say, I just don't want to squat. That's fine. I have a lot of clients that don't want to squat. We don't squat. I have a lot of clients that don't want to deadlift. And respect, there are no magic exercises. But what we have to do about shoulder training is be intelligent. Here's where it falls apart, people. Progressive overload is a foundational essential. There's no mass without progressive overload unless you're going to put a lot of steroids in your ass. Okay? Hard training is the foundation. And in that lane, progressive overload is the fruit. Now, I have nothing against side lateral raises. I do them every shoulder workout. They're the last exercise I do, and I try to make them as intense as I can. Okay? But these influencers that try to pull out every overhead press and have you rely on side lateral raises, you're not going to build big delts from side laterals alone. They have no solid progression opportunity. That's not opinion. You can't get to 80-pound side lateral raises, not without cheating them. You might be able to get to 40s or 45s, but they have a limited progression opportunity. So that doesn't mean we don't use side lateral raises, right? But that just means you need other impactful exercises to build your side delts. Now, doing inclines have a minor impact on the side delts, right? Doesn't say they have no impact or even a negligible impact, but you need more than side lateral raises. So where are you going to go? All of a sudden, we're not going to do overheads because one chuckleberry with a fake doctorate is saying don't do overhead presses because the body is super fragile and you might get a boo-boo hurt, right? You might get a boo-boo. I hate boo-boo culture. I hate the mentality of boo-boo. I might get a boo-boo. You know what? This is fucking lifting. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get a boo-boo. I don't know many lifters that have picked up just chronic, horrible shoulder rotator cuff injuries from doing overhead presses. Usually, if they're going to pick up injuries, it's going to be from the bench press, and it's going to be from poor form, bouncing it, tearing up their shoulders for a long period of time. Wise, controlled, focused training is your best prevention against injuries, okay? Not avoiding exercises, not doing boo-boo culture. Don't do this exercise because you might get hurt. And that, the body is fragile. You might get hurt. We use this. We might as well just stop doing squats and deadlifts and everything hard. That's where boo-boo culture takes you. It does. Is there risk with anything you do physically? Absolutely. Do we stop doing overhead presses because one boo-boo culture influencer is afraid you might hurt your little rotator cuff? Come on. If we're going to use, that's such poor logic. Anything random can happen in training. I've been training folks for a long, long time, and I have had maybe 4, 5, 6 people with rotator cuff injuries over the years. I have one client right now that has an issue with his shoulder, and it was basically pre-existing to lifting. 99% of literally nearly every case of rotator cuff issues I've seen has come from other sports or forms of physical abuse. So anyway, this is a dead horse. I'm not going to drone on and on about it, but anybody that wants to come over here and do the ball comparison thing to try to say so-and-so lifted 1 more pound on his 3 lift total than you did, so therefore he is the god of all lifting advice. I'm going to tell you, if we want to play that game, I can pull out a lot of cards. And I don't need to play that game. But you know what? I ran 52 hours on my 52nd birthday, not continuously. I ran many trail marathons. I ran many ultras. I have cards up on Matt winning too, right? It all depends on what cards you want to look at. But do you think I'm going to tell you because I did something he didn't, or he lifted 10 more pounds than me, that all of a sudden you should follow my advice or you should follow his? At the end of the day, I want you to follow reasonable advice, and I want you to think for yourself. One thing I don't want you to do is fall into this cult of fragility, this fragile culture, that the body is so fragile that we need to stop doing things that are challenging. If you don't want to do overheads, don't do them. If you believe side laterals are good enough to build your side delts, then do it. I do not care. But if you're going to come to this channel, I'm going to give you my honest opinion, and let's just sit down person to person and process it and to discuss it intelligently. But the second you come and try to compare balls, right, and say so-and-so lifted 10 more pounds than you. Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. 100%. But, that doesn't make the argument valid. So let's carry on. All right, where were we? Boy, did I tick you off? Did I really tick you off by having a disagreeing opinion? I know I got ticked off by your attitude. I did. I'm not going to lie. You didn't come here to learn. You came here to toss out your. All right. I can throw a baseball, football without discomfort because of my rotator cuff. Yet my overhead is getting decently strong. 0 issues. Yeah, I can't throw really. I played a lot of baseball when I was young, and in my day, we would go to across the street and we would throw pitch after pitch. Your arm would throw out. You'd still pitch, right? I think I pretty much ground my rotator cuff into gravel, not literally, but figuratively. And I can't throw very well either, so I understand. But I have incredibly healthy shoulders. I don't have any rotator cuff injuries from shoulders. All of my injuries, most of my injuries are just from random crap or random forms of physical abuse. There's always a potential that you can pick up an injury from lifting. That's just kind of the nature of lifting. So anyway, wow, that was fun. Let me see if I missed anything. I sure did. I missed a lot of questions, so let me backtrack. I hate it when I do these things. I hate when I get fired up like this. So I apologize, guys. There's just so much stupidity on the internet. Sometimes you just can't help. No excuse. All right. Machine shoulder press range of motion. Should I go down to dead stop and press? The machine shoulder press can be problematic, right? I find to get under the machine shoulder in many machine shoulder presses, I find it to be problematic getting under it to start. In some cases, you can prop up where the weight lands. I've seen some people use like one of those yoga blocks or whatever to prop up the starting point of the shoulder press. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it can be problematic sometimes to get under it. So when you're doing a shoulder press, the key thing is you want to have control during the descent. Watch where your elbows are, watch where your elbows are relative to your shoulder. When you bring it down, you probably want to bring it right about here so the bar is just Adam's apple level, lower chin level. That's going to be deep enough because at that point, your elbows are well below your shoulders. And when you initiate, you're going to get plenty of side delt activation. Below that, when you go here, go down, a lot of times you're going to get really, not always, but you're going to get the potential for internal shoulder rotation, which can kind of weaken the press from the starting position. So there's no need to go lower than about chin level and arbitrarily take it back to the starting position. Keep it natural. Keep it at the point where it feels good. Let's see. Zero. Hello, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. Bring on the weekend. Absolutely. And anybody that missed the link to the Discord for the 10-100, you can hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman. I'd be happy to send it to you. I'm loving the challenges, by the way. Good. I'm glad to hear that. And this is the link. You can come on over and join Discord. We'd be happy to have you over there. All right, where are we? Let's see. Ice Cold Tristan. This can be theoretical, but would you rather have a dumbbell rack with a lot of dumbbell weights or a pair of adjustable dumbbells with a lot of weight plates? I've had both, and that's a very good question. The one thing I'll say is there are different types of adjustable dumbbells. The spin locks can get really irritating because they tend to get loose, right? So I tend to I tend to get tired of them really, really quickly. I bought a rack, and my rack only holds up to 75-pound dumbbells, but I like being able to grab and go. But you know, whenever you get like one of these fancy adjustable dumbbell sets or a rack, they're going to cost you a lot more money. You know, and it was a hard decision, but I got so tired of adjustables. It all comes down to whether you have the money, the free cash. Let's see. Big Billy Baker, how would you recommend I approach my gym about getting additional equipment? You know, gyms, if you're in a very successful gym where they have a lot of members and they seem to be doing okay monetarily, then you know, I probably wouldn't hesitate. I'm more someone that, you know, if the gym isn't doing the greatest, I would not over push them. There was a gym here locally that I started training at that didn't have a lot of members and they didn't have like a safety squat bar. I actually bought a bar and took it to the gym for them. And I'm not some saint, but it was like $220. But it just made being able to, I didn't have this home gym set up, and it made being able to train there, you know, so much more pleasant. Let's see. The only time I use Axle bars on overheads. If it feels better on the shoulders, that's a good thing. As long as it's not, you know, encouraging extra shoulder stress, you're good to go. Can the amount of caffeine levels in popular energy drinks be a bad thing? And the fact that well, I think anytime you overuse something, you have to ask yourself whether it's good for your general health. That's a question that each of us has to ask and answer. I don't have all the answers, and I think when it comes to health, I think balance and being reasonable is always a good place to have your footing. Michael says, I also have below average size hands. There's no way I can provide an adequate stimulus on pulling with axle bars. Absolutely. No, I'm not for any thicker bar on a squat. The thicker a bar is, the more you're going to have to push your hands back, even if it's a couple millimeters. And I do not want that I do not want that stress on my shoulders, to be honest with you. 0. I do my squats on Wednesday, ramping method. Would adding 3 sets of heavy squats on low reps on my junk day help progress? There's no magical answer to that. Some of it would have to do with your form. Is your form good? Is your form dialed in? There's a chance that, if you are doing this and your form is not, locked in, then it's going to make things worse, beat up the body. So I'd have to know more information. You could certainly do a specialization period like this. Just make sure your form is locked in before you do so. I've heard that intensifiers are useless. No, stop following Paul Carter immediately, please. They're not. Let's be reasonable. Hard work. We're after hard work. This is such a black and white statement. This is a junk statement. It's a trash can statement. Paul, I don't want to get into this other stuff, but no, I'm not. Anything that facilitates hard work and progression is always going to have value when used properly. Thanks for the link. Thank you. Let me know if you have any issues. How was the carnivore diet for you? I didn't specifically set out to do the carnivore, but I did really rely on meat. I don't have any issues doing it. I'm not a carnivore proponent. I like to specifically, I don't like to over rely on, because of my diabetes, I tend to like to rely on animal and plant-based. I did do a shorter stint. I don't have any issues with it. I really, really like eating meat and eggs, that sort of thing. Is it something that I feel is sustainable? I'd never enter a diet that didn't allow me to have a little bit of beer occasionally, or some nachos, or some Doritos, or some ice cream. One of the things I did when I was on it is allow some ice cream with heavy cream and that sort of thing. But I would never enter into a eating lifestyle that didn't allow some flexibility. I don't like to be that dogmatic, if that makes sense. How would you approach a workout very early in the morning? The first thing you want to do is early in the morning, you're low on sodium and you're low on water. Even if you're only mildly sweating during the evening, you're going to lose some sodium, you're going to lose some water. The first thing you want to do when you get up is have at least 8 ounces of water out of bed, and then start sipping. You don't want to just slam a ton of water and have it sit in your stomach during a workout, but you want to have some water and sodium straight out of bed, or just pound an electrolyte powder straight out of bed with water. That's your best bet if you can't eat. Let's see, Guy. Hey, Steve, thanks for the advice you gave a few days ago on my shoulder pain. Caused my weighted pull-ups. I've been doing body weight pull-ups only since. Good, man. I'm really glad to hear it. I'm glad that worked out for you. Justin, let me just check something out here. Let's see how many questions we have to go. How many exercises per session is too many? Been doing 8 recently after adding in calves. There's no such thing as too many. I mean, you could be doing 2 sets per exercise. Some, and in that scenario, 8 by 2 would be 16 total sets. It's all a bigger picture. Weekly volume should make sense. sustainability should make sense. And if you're getting to the point where your last 2 or 3 exercises, you just are having fits, bringing up your work capacity because it's just too much volume, then you might have to adjust a little bit. If you're doing 3 sets per exercise, you might have to adjust down to 2 on some of them, etc. So um, there's no black and white answer, if that makes sense. Would you say that keeping the torso angle the same as I pull a good idea to not let the hips rise first? When you are pulling, if the hips rise before the bar or at a greater speed than the bar on a deadlift or on a the exercise we looked at earlier, and your lower back gets up to the level where your shoulders are, or your hips rise to the level where your shoulders are, then you're going to be really in a bad leverage position. If you look at someone that's doing a snatch, they probably aren't going to, their torso is probably not going to get more than 45-degree angle. They're not going to be like this. They're going to maintain a reasonable degree of ability to maintain quality leverages and pulling, if that makes sense, pulling power, generate pulling power. Big JJ, I'm finding myself wanting to do a 4 set of big lifts like bench. No, there's no negatives as long as you can do it. As long as there's a progression approach in the mix, by all means. Ian, can you get stronger on a cut? It depends on the exercise and your strength levels. If you're a beginner, and let's say you weigh 260 pounds and you want to get down to 200 and you've never lifted before, you can build strength while losing weight because you don't have a decent base strength, which isn't an insult. On the other hand, if you have a really huge amount of strength and you're trying to maintain that while losing 60 pounds, it's going to be harder. So each lift is going to be unique. There are some lifts you might be relatively weak on that you can still progress or progress a little bit easier. And there are going to be some lifts that you're super strong on that are going to be harder to hold weight, especially the presses. The presses really struggle overall. Is it possible to target the lats more than the chest? Yeah, absolutely. I have clients that do dumbbell pullovers with a focus on the lats. Now, the pullover is a very unique exercise, and you're going to get a degree of chest activation just driving that elbow down. I can feel my chest working doing this. And because one of the functions of the long head of the triceps is elbow rotation, you're going to get some of the long head of the triceps involved in there as well. So never think that you are going to be able to do pullovers without getting in some chest activation and some tricep activation, but you can definitely focus the lats more like a lat prayer, etc. Just start very moderate and try to really, really dial into things. 38-year-old male trying to put on size and strength. Do I need to bulk if I'm 20% body fat? Yeah, bulking is, you need to lean bulk. If you don't do a lean bulk, you're going to put yourself in the position where you're trying to hold steady to a weight on the scale and hope somehow you build 15 pounds of muscle while losing 15 pounds of fat at maintenance. You could gain some being a beginner, but you're not going to, it's dramatically going to hamstring the outcome, and you're not going to build much muscle at all. Your best bet is to use the bulking protocol I use in the Massive Iron World, where you could cut 10 pounds first and then bulk 10 pounds over 3, 4, 5 months and use that. Can back down the overheads for side delts. Anyone that doesn't believe should just hold up a weight overhead and tell me their side delts don't get sore or taxed as hell. I appreciate you saying that. I just want to say, like, the rants, why I get so frustrated is because these people are wasting your time, right? They're wasting your time. I don't want to see your time wasted. You don't have to, I don't want you to be dogmatic for me. I want you to develop your own opinion and I want you to enjoy your training. I do want you to have balanced training. And the overhead press is one of the fundamental movement patterns. You have a horizontal press and a horizontal pull, bench press, push ups, rows of varying degrees. You have a vertical press, which is an overhead press or machine press, and you have a vertical pull, like a pull up. These are complementary movement patterns. They're fundamental movement patterns for the upper body. And there's varying degrees, which you hit these, of course. Then you have things for the lower body, like the hinge and the squat, etc., and things like the loaded carry. When it comes to hypertrophy or muscle building, do you need a loaded carry? Well, you're holding so much weight over the course of a week that you're de facto doing loaded carries or loaded holds constantly. So one could argue you really don't need loaded carries when it comes added loaded carries when it comes to hypertrophy, but you still could, right? Hip hinge, you can work the back without a hip hinge. But there is good value in doing the deadlift and some hip hinges, but you want to ease into them and you want to do them reasonably and allow the lower back to get up to speed. The upper body movement patterns, you really want to balance things. You want to take a shotgun approach. You need progressive overload in the mix. So when we get into the territory where we're, number one, creating fear of exercises, we're really doing a disservice and we're exaggerating the likelihood of exercise. Saying that someone shouldn't do an overhead press because they might potentially get a rotator cuff injury is really fear culture to the exaggerated degree. It almost makes it seem like doing X creates Y. That's not the case, folks. That's not the case. Doing squats does not create inherently back and knee injuries, right? Certainly the squat can be an exercise that can create a lot of back and knee injuries when done incorrectly, but we want to ease into things and we want to do them properly. We want to be reasonable, but to say X always equals Y is ridiculous. We have to be educated as responsible lifters. We want to take care of our body. I get upset at these sorts of things because they create a potential for greater injury from unbalancing your pressing planes and your upper body work. And they're just flat out dumb. They're just dumb. My wife's home, so my dogs are going crazy. And they waste your time. But, beyond that, and I really do apologize for going off on these lives. It's just one of the parts of the lives, but I don't like the dogmatic culture. Influencer X said so-and-so, and I'm going to side with influencer X, because he backs the way I want to believe. I don't align with anybody, and I don't ask you align with me. This isn't an alignment competition. This is a competition to be our best selves. And we want to take all the information and use what works for us and set aside what doesn't work for us. But these black and white statements in this fear culture, like there's no value in drop sets. Come on, this is such black and white nonsense. But if people want to align with influencers like this, you can't fight that sort of dogmatic craziness. It's just part of human nature. I don't personally want to be a part of it. I don't want to be a dogmatic knucklehead. I like a lot of things that a lot of people say, and some things about what they say I don't like, but we don't have to go to war over them. But when we start to say, whatever, I'm over it. I'm really over it. Dead horse. Peter, you do you. Is it possible to go from a 415 on squat to deadlift to 500 in a year while maintaining weight? Anything is possible. In a year, that's a huge increase on squats. It's extremely unlikely, especially in the natural realm. I don't see many 500-pound squatters. There's a chance that you could be a freak of nature, and there are freak of natures that exist that can do it. But the likelihood, even for somebody that squats 415 to jump to 500 in a year, it's not very likely. It's not. Do I want you to try? Absolutely. Am I trying to be discouraging? No. Do I think there'd be value in trying to get your body weight up a little bit during this process? Yeah, I think a little bit of extra calories is going to help with recovery and the likelihood that you can do these things, but you have your goals. I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm going to tell you realistically, it's very, very difficult. Is it possible to get up to from 415 to 500 over 4 to 5 years? Yeah. If you can get to a 415 squat, you can probably get your squat a lot higher to 465 or whatever. But, a lot of it's just speculation. You must do overheads. I've rehabbed my shoulder from a labrum tear using overheads and a few other exercises. I just want you guys to use balance, and I want you guys to use exercises for the side delts that have a progression opportunity. Dr. Matt Wenning got exposed by Bromley, also by Atlas Power Shrugged. I'm not going to pick up a pitchfork and go after people. And I don't agree with Matt Wenning's opinion. Fair. He doesn't agree with mine. Okay, fair. You have to decide what the path is for you. I don't have any interest in these influencer wars, but the fact of the matter is, Matt Wenning exaggerated his level of education is what it is. Everybody has to, pay for what they do in life, and it is what it is. I'm here to lift heavy shit and help you get bigger and stronger. And the drama stuff, I didn't want to turn this into a battle between me and Matt. Matt lifts more than you. I don't mean any disrespect when I say I don't give a shit that Matt lifts more than me. It's not a compare. We're not comparing balls. Oh, that inherently makes his opinion on something right. If you want to go that degree, I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've met a ton of guys that are a lot bigger than you and a lot stronger than you. Not you, Justin. Any of us that have opinions that differ from you. So if we're going to play that lame logic card, we're all going to lose. How can any form of overhead press? That's the question. Why wouldn't you do them? Right? That's the question I ask myself. Like when somebody says, not an influencer, but when somebody doesn't want to do overheads, why don't we want to do them? Not a criticism. That's an honest question. Why don't we want to do them? Do you fear a rotator cuff injury? Well, do your own research, but the likelihood is very low. Does someone maybe not want to do hard work? There's a chance. Is there a chance they don't like overheads? Yeah. Is it fair that you don't like overheads? Not Carl, but anyone, you. Is there a chance you don't like the overheads? Yeah, there's a chance. But, the thing is, there are things I don't like to do in lifting as well. Just because I don't like to do them doesn't mean I should stop. If you want quality results, you have to do at some point things you don't want to do, right? That's the way it's going to work. That's reality. I want to get big delts just doing side lateral raises. Well, you know what? I want to eat all the nachos every single day and never gain a pound of weight. Some things are fairy tales. I'm just, I'm not even gonna, I'm not even gonna read it. I'm just over the whole overhead press thing. Thank you though. Thank you for the comment. Just to back it up, I had shoulder issues in the past and returned after a 5-year break. They went away. I don't doubt it at all. I think many times we have the opposite issue as lifters. We overbench, we over chest, and we under shoulder. And I truly, honestly believe, and I think it makes sense, that this degree of imbalance is not a good thing for the shoulder girdle or shoulder health. Also, I get a ton of side delt pump and fatigue from presses, and my shoulders are arguably, yeah, me too. Absolutely. I remember having somebody sending me a message, a DM on Instagram about so-and-so says you only need laterals and overhead presses, don't work the side delts. I was right in the middle of an overhead press workout. My side delts are torched with pumps. No exercise pumps me right now more than overheads for my side delts. That's not an exaggeration. I don't get a chest pump from bench pressing, but I do get a lot of chest soreness 2 days later. But when I'm in the pit doing actual training, the biggest pumps I get, number one, are from overhead presses on my side delts. And then probably after that is a lot of tricep volume on my triceps. Ice Cold Tristan. Can barbell bench pressing too often reduce shoulder mobility to the point where it's hard to press overhead? Any form of sloppy pressing can be punishing, but I don't know that. I can't generalize to say this, no. Is it an issue to not include any direct vertical pulls in your program? Instead, only pullovers and hammer strength high to low rows. One thing I will say is that there is a belief that everything in back training is compartmentalized. So if you do rows, they don't hit your lats. If you do vertical pulling, it doesn't hit your upper back, just your lats, your rhomboids, etc. This is not true at all. So I would probably do one vertical pull just for good luck. I feel kind of a mental twitch not doing it. But I think you can do, as long as you're really challenging your lats and you feel you're getting good lat focus, then you do you. I just brought a new bench which can be adjusted. I tried incline, and while stacking 4 plates up to incline and flat bench versus a real line, it's truly a humbling experience. Absolutely. Wesley. I think besides the steroid abuse at Westside, Louis Simmons was a good coach, yes. And we have to be able to compartmentalize these things. And if you follow his advice, you'll have a lot of success. There are many paths, and that's what I teach, right? There's no magic way. That's one of the foundations, but do you automatically do everything that Louis Simmons says? If you feel compelled or pressured to, it's probably not a good idea. What you need to do is pick and choose things that work for you, test it in the gym, and evolve your training. You ever think about opening up your own gym? Maybe if I retired just for fun, but that would be kind of a pipe dream. Yeah, I do, but I just don't have the free time or money. Is a lower upper arms repeat split too much arm focus? No, but you would need a rest day after arms day. If you want to do like lower posterior arms, it would be fine. It just depends on the overall weekly structure. I made a post on Instagram the other day that there are no bad training splits, right? It's all in how you structure things. Justin, on barrel press, should arms be flared or tucked? You don't tuck your arms on the barrel press. The barrel press, you bring it down like this. Your elbows are going to be a little bit below your shoulders, right? But they're not going to be tucked. A little bit below, you want to get a stretch right about your palms are facing each other on the barrel press. So you bring it down like this. You push your elbows back to lower the weight. You keep your wrists above your elbows, and you feel your chest stretch just slightly, and then you punch back up like this. Happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in. And when doing dumbbell laterals, when should you stop the set? Well, you can continue on with cheat reps, if you can only get them like halfway. But when you feel your ability to generate speed slows, then I stop counting reps. Does that make sense? You can still do reps after that and get some value on your side delts. Also, conspiracy time. All the lifters who tell you not to overhead are being paid by big protein, right? Yeah, definitely. That's a good conspiracy. I appreciate the humor. Happy Friday, Nolan, a client of mine. How would you teach a squat and deadlift different to a beginner? Keep it very, very simple and natural. I want a beginner on the deadlift to take their time. Don't just drop your hips and try to yank the bar off the ground. Set your hips until you feel in a good leverage position, and then try to stand up. That's kind of the first cue I use on deadlifts. And don't rush through the set. Don't just drop your hips and try to stand up. Drop your hips till you feel you're in a good leverage position. Take a big breath. Brace your core like somebody's about to punch you in the stomach. And then think about standing up. That's a good starting point. As far as teaching the squat, I have a video about picking up the quarter, 2 videos. And that is how I would teach a squat to beginner. That's how I teach it. So check that out. If you can't find that, let me know. Is it reasonable to do a few reps above a given rep range to make sure it's the right time to add weight? Meaning going 1 to 2 reps? Yeah, absolutely. That's what we do a lot in the massive iron world. Let's say you're working within the 3 to 5 rep range. You could push a set to 6 or 7 and then use that as an indicator. And then when you add weight, you might drop down to 4 or 5. You're always going to lose reps when you add weight. So going over that rep range by at least 1 can have a lot of benefit. What do you think about using only the yoke bar for squats? It's really, really thick. I don't believe it has any center knurling. I have a bar similar to it. I can squat with it, but because of the no center knurling, it always irritates me and spooks me out a little bit. Last couple times I did pullovers, I stayed within 80% of the range, kept touching the whole time. It made the lift way more difficult. That's part of the process, going into the gym, trying things, seeing how they feel, and evolving things based on that. So that's a good thing. Ian, is deadlift more legs or back? It's deadlift. A true deadlift is going to be more stress on your upper back and your yoke. Okay. Are the glutes involved? Are the hamstrings involved? Are the hips involved? Yes. Are the quads involved? Yes. But it's not a leg press. A deadlift is far more going to develop your back than it will anything else. Your erectors, your rhomboids, even your lats, your yoke, because of that overall tension and stress, and more of a minor impact on your legs. I still do many versions of overheads for 25 years. Imagine that. Should you do, in general, more horizontal pushing or vertical pulling? Horizontal pushing or vertical pushing? I do about equal. I mean, in the massive iron world, we start with 9 to 12 sets for chest and shoulders. Usually the last exercise is a little bit lighter. So usually about 6 to 9 sets of pushing for each. That's what I advocate. And I do that balanced for all my clients, and I don't see any issues with it. How fat should you get in a bulk? Watch my latest video watch my videos on bulking. Number 1, you don't want to get so large that you become unhealthy. Number 2, you don't want to bulk so deeply that you can't cut your way out. So a lot of it depends on that. Number 3, you don't want to bulk so heavy that mentally it becomes depressing or a burden. Last question. After this, we are hopping off. I appreciate you guys. watching the whole heated discussion today. Can you train in a way to bias certain muscles like shoulders and back to get the no. It's like trying to bias training so we can look like a basketball player, right? A part of why Olympic lifters look like Olympic lifters is because just they're built to move the weight. They have naturally big traps, so this can facilitate some of what they do. The best thing you can do is build a big base from head to toe. Build a big base from head to toe. Attack everything like a weakness, get everything strong, and from there, adjust. All right, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back next Friday to spend an hour talking about why you should overhead press. Thank you guys for your support. Have a good weekend.
It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.